Welcome to BillionX, where we bring you stories that have the power to change lives. Sometimes it takes just one decision, one single moment of clarity, to transform your future completely. This is the story of how I hit rock bottom and made a choice that saved me and rebuilt my life from the ashes. I was lost, broken, and hopeless, with nothing but regrets and shattered dreams. The world had turned its back on me, but somewhere deep inside, a tiny spark refused to die. I invite you to stay till the end, because this isn't just my story. It could be yours too. Every word comes from the heart. Every moment is real. And maybe, just maybe, this story could ignite something powerful within you. It started on a cold evening I will never forget. The job I had given my everything to was gone. My bank account hit zero, and the people I thought would stand by me had vanished like shadows at dusk. I sat alone in a small, dark room, the weight of failure pressing so hard on my chest I could barely breathe. I kept asking myself, is this what life is? Is this all I'm worth? The silence screamed louder than words, and my reflection in the cracked mirror felt like a stranger staring back. That night, for the first time, I tasted what real hopelessness feels like drowning while still breathing. My heart was heavy, my dreams were dead, and I truly believed I was finished. Days turned into weeks, and with every passing moment, I felt myself slipping further away from the person I used to be. I stopped talking to people, stopped looking in mirrors, stopped hoping. Even food lost its taste, and sleep became my only escape. But deep down, a whisper inside me kept saying, "This can't be it. This can't be the end." I remember standing on my rooftop one night, staring at the city lights far away, wishing I could escape my skin. I cried silently because I didn't dare to ask for help. I thought giving up was easier than fighting. But that whisper inside, it refused to die. It was on the most ordinary morning that something extraordinary happened. I woke up and looked at myself, not in the mirror, but inside. I asked one simple question. If I don't change today, will anything ever change? The answer hit me like lightning. I couldn't keep waiting for a miracle. I had to be the miracle. I promised myself, no matter how small, I would take one step forward today, and then another tomorrow. I wrote down my first goal, trembling but determined: rebuild my life. It wasn't magic. It was a choice. A decision made in the darkest hour to fight for the smallest light. And that decision, right there, was the seed of everything that followed. I started small. I got up early. I cleaned the room I had ignored for weeks. I applied for jobs I thought I'd never get. I read books about people who had once been broken, too, and I clung to every word like a lifeline. Each day, I took one action, no matter how tiny. I stopped listening to the voice that said, "You can't," and I started feeding the voice that said, "Try again." Every step was a battle, but slowly, I could feel something inside me shift. The world outside was the same, but I was different. I was no longer waiting to be saved. I was saving myself. Fear didn't vanish just because I made a decision. It screamed louder every time I stepped forward. I was terrified of failing again, of hearing people say, "I told you so." But I realized something powerful. Fear grows in the dark, but when you face it, it shrinks. So I faced it every day. I learned new skills, took small risks, and pushed myself to show up, even when my hands were shaking. Fear became my teacher instead of my master. It still walked beside me, but it no longer controlled me. Every brave step I took, no matter how imperfect, was a victory. I started celebrating the tiniest victories. My first interview, my first freelance project, my first proper meal after weeks of sadness. Each small win felt like a spark in the darkness, lighting the path ahead. Slowly, the person in the mirror began to change. There was a light in my eyes again, a quiet strength returning. The small wins stacked up, and with each one, my belief grew stronger. The mountain still looked massive, but now I knew I had the power to climb it. I was no longer a victim of life. I was becoming the author of my own story. But progress isn't a straight line. I stumbled. I failed again. Some days felt like stepping 10 feet backward. Old fears resurfaced. Doubts crept in, and I wanted to give up more than once. But this time, I knew better. Setbacks weren't the end. They were part of the journey. I stopped judging myself harshly and instead asked, what can I learn from this fall? With every failure, I became wiser, tougher, and more focused. The difference wasn't that bad things stopped happening. It was that I stopped letting them define me. For the first time in years, I allowed myself to dream again. I pictured the life I wanted, the freedom, the happiness, the stability I craved. I stopped thinking small and started believing that I deserved more. Every day, I visualized success not as something for other people, but as something I was building brick by brick. I wrote down my goals and read them daily. The fog of hopelessness was lifting, and in its place stood a clear vision. I realized that your life flows where your focus goes, and I chose to focus on growth, on purpose, on meaning. Then one day, something I had worked so hard for finally happened. I got the call, a real opportunity, one that would change everything. My hands trembled, my heart raced, and tears filled my eyes because this moment, this breakthrough was the reward for every sleepless night, every silent tear, every battle with fear. I wasn't the same person anymore. I was standing taller, speaking with confidence, living with purpose, and I knew this was just the beginning. The first step of a new chapter was written by the decision I made not to give up when everything told me to. As success slowly entered my life, I made a silent promise to myself. I would never forget where I started. I stayed grounded, grateful for every small blessing that came my way. I remembered the days when I had nothing, and it made me appreciate everything I was building. I treated people kindly, gave back whenever I could, and held on to the lessons life had taught me the hard way. Because success without gratitude is just an empty shell. I wanted more than material wins. I wanted to be the kind of person my old self could look up to. I learned that motivation fades, but discipline is what keeps you moving when your heart isn't in it. There were days I wanted to quit, days when the old voices of doubt returned. But I showed up anyway, every single day. I built habits that protected me from my weaknesses. I stopped chasing quick results and started valuing consistency. Because success isn't built in a single moment. It's built in the silent hours when no one is watching. And over time, those small daily actions created unstoppable momentum. Just when I thought I had to walk this journey alone, life surprised me. I met someone who became a guide, a mentor, someone who had walked a similar path. They didn't just teach me skills. They taught me how to believe in myself when my faith wavered. Sometimes the right person shows up when you're finally ready to receive their wisdom. And that's exactly what happened. Their words still echo in my mind. You've already made it through the hardest part, the decision to start. Now just keep going. It changed everything. As months passed, the changes in me became visible to everyone around. I was no longer the broken, hopeless version of myself. My confidence had grown, my mindset had transformed, and I had started helping others find their way forward. The people who once doubted me now looked at me differently. But this journey wasn't just about proving others wrong. It was about proving to myself that I could rise. I didn't just change my circumstances. I changed who I was at my core. And that is the most powerful transformation of all. Sometimes late at night, I still think about the person I used to be, the one who wanted to give up, the one who thought life was over. And I wish I could reach back in time and tell that version of me, hold on. Please, just hold on. Your future self is waiting. There's a life ahead so beautiful you can't even imagine it yet. Every hardship, every tear, every sleepless night, it all led to this. And if I could survive it, so can you. Never underestimate the power of holding on just a little bit longer. With time, my journey became bigger than just me. I started sharing my story with others who were struggling in silence. Just like I once was, I realized that every battle I had fought, every tear I had shed, had prepared me to guide someone else out of their darkness. I began lifting others not by preaching, but by showing them through my actions that change is possible. The pain that once nearly destroyed me had become the very fuel I used to heal others. Because when you rise, you have the power to lift others too. That's how the cycle of hope begins. What people saw was the success, the confidence, the smile, but what they didn't see were the countless silent battles behind it. The nights of doubt, the lonely mornings, the days when I almost gave up. Every person who rises carries invisible scars, and that's why we should never judge someone's journey without knowing their story. We all carry burdens unseen by the world, but every time we choose to rise, we rewrite the ending. My life is not perfect, and it never will be, but it's real, and it's mine. And so I leave you with this. One decision, no matter how small, can change everything. If you're standing where I once stood, broken, hopeless, or afraid, know this: you have more strength inside you than you can imagine. Don't give up. Your story isn't over. It's just beginning. And if this journey touched even a single part of your heart, I invite you to stay with us for more real stories that inspire change. Please consider subscribing to BillionX, because together we rise, together we heal, and together we build futures worth fighting for.